The first years of this century were tremendous times for salmon flies on the Big Hole River. Maybe the last hurrah for Paranarces californica, a species that demands clean, cold water and clean substrate. Salmon flies are the largest of all species that hatch on western rivers. All salmon flies are big, the ones on the Big Hole especially so. The big females there can push 3 inches. Their common name derives from their salmon orange abdomens as adults. But take this hint, the fish wise up. Too much orange in your imitation puts the fish off, especially later in the hatch. In June, when the big bugs were due, I would camp at the BLM campground below Divide with a core group of Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks guys and a changing cast of other anglers. There, we would revel in the ambience of salmon fly time in southwest Montana. A clump of silverberry grows streamside near this campground, its perfumy blossoms signaling salmon flies. The western tanagers hang expectantly on the streamside vegetation, anticipating the annual salmon fly feast about to appear. Unlike the trout that have been gorging on the migrating nymphs, tanagers have to wait for the bugs to break the surface. After living underwater for several years, at the proper synchronized time, hordes of salmonfly nymphs crawl to the shore. Once above water, they climb up favored logs and bushes where their final nymphal exoskeleton splits. Mating occurs. After a while, usually in a warming mid-afternoon, the salmonflies take flight. They only get to enjoy their wings for a few days. The gravid females usually take several passes, flying across the river, apparently hesitant to fulfill their reproductive destiny. Finally, one by one, they will drop low to bombardier the fertilized eggs. Ultimately, they fall to the surface, extruding their final eggs. This maneuver is accompanied by much bodily twitching and the tantalizing fluttering of their 4 big, shiny, newly sprouted wings. The trout respond exactly as you would expect. Many salmonfly anglers have never witnessed the unfettered gluttony of a full-on salmon feeding frenzy. More's the pity. To avoid the crowds, we fished a very early and a late float each day. Painful now, just remembering. Consequently, we didn't get caught up with any riffraff during the dawn float, and were behind the big slug that launches late morning. It was rough and tumble high water fishing, tricky rowing trying to give both fishermen good shots at the bank. Rarely more than 10 feet of fly line past the rod tip. Extremely demanding casting because the only productive casts are those that land tight into the willow pockets, and the high water can sometimes be a couple feet behind those willows. Quick and accurate are the keys. Naturally, flies can get entangled in the foliage. As a fly retrieval measure, we tippet it out short leaders, maybe 7 feet, with heavy-duty nylon. Original stiff 8 and 10 pound chameleon maxima preferred. You get just as many strikes with a new heavy tippet, maybe more because of being emboldened. 1 or 2 big dry flies are deployed. This isn't dainty stuff. By choice, we only fished dry salmon flies. Great big fish can be boated on dries during salmon fly time, but the real thrill is seeing the variety of takes that come to your oversized dry fly. Fred Nelson has kept meticulous records of his fishing dating back to the Reagan administration. His records reside at the Montana State University Library. They are pharaonic. Fred has calculated that only about 30% of the fish that move to the fly are actually boated. Over the years, we've caught fish on scores of different patterns. Here are 3 favorites. The bottle brush. This unique old pattern provokes an astonishing number of strikes. It's a great early morning fly. The Pink and Squirrel. The original sofa pillow dry from Pat Barnes featured squirrel tail wings and lots of hackle. One of my favorites is derived from it. Pink macrame bodies have worked on every river I've ever fished. Over half a century ago, a little blurb in a Federation of Fly Fishermen bulletin praised the use of mixed Coachman Brown and Grizzly hackle on the original sofa pillow. Still great advice, but good luck getting good, big dry fly hackle these days. Newly fangled wiggly legs have been added, but only because they work. Here's a more modern pattern from Fred Nelson. Foam-bodied, low-floating dries have proven their worth. Again, fish shy from too much orange. The first 3 days in 2002, we floated mainly from Melrose to Browns, where it was only so-so. Some takers each float, but only at a few predictable banks. Late Saturday and early Sunday from Divide to about Maiden Rock were phenomenal to the dry bug. Very avid takers and some very nice fish. You really had to cast tight though, and I'm sure lots of people looking for easy pickings left disappointed. Here's the big adventure we had Saturday, June 8th, 2002. There were 2 rafts in our party that day. We launched early Saturday morning from Salmonfly Fishing Access in Melrose. Fred Nelson, Tim Weiss, and I launched in Tim's NRS raft. Sam Shepard followed us down in his Green Air self-bailer. Sam was doing all the rowing for 2 fly fishing newbie relatives of his from Arizona. All the FW&P guys are serious birders. The day before, Weiss and Sam had seen a large flock of Lewis woodpeckers, named for Meriwether Lewis, who had pushed up the bottom of the Big Hole for several miles in 1805. We stopped so Fred could view the woodpeckers through his binoculars, and for general birding futzing around. Just as we were pulling under the Browns Bridge, Tim Weiss spotted Sam's raft floating towards us. No big deal, except that no one was in it. It was the Mary Celeste of inflatables. We executed rapid water docking maneuvers. Weiss boldly jumped into Sam's empty raft. Thank goodness the oars were still in it, and we beached both craft. By this time, we were too far below Browns to consider pulling the rafts back. The next takeout is Glen, roughly 6 river miles downstream. Tim splashed through a raging side channel, climbed up to the road, and made his way upstream to Browns to await the boatless group. Our party had launched hours ahead of everyone else that morning, so we figured that someone would ultimately float down and rescue our crew. At this point, we weren't absolutely sure that they were even breathing air, but suspected that one of the 2 Arizona newbie anglers in Sam's boat had failed to secure the raft. Unaware of how the story would finally unfold, Fred and I took solo thalwag floats in the 2 rafts. We took the main channel, bypassing the liquid comforts at Grogan's Bar in the town of Glen. Finally down at Glen Access, we were greeted by the relieved faces of the castaways. It was the best possible outcome, and one that would have turned out very differently if we hadn't spent a half hour on the bank looking at a bunch of Lewis woodpeckers and one brilliantly sunlit Bullock's oriole. Turns out, as Tim Weiss walked into the parking lot at Brown's almost simultaneously with Sam and the other 2 frantic, breathless, boatless anglers. Along with them was Maddie, Sam's Brittany, the only one in the party who enjoyed their hot, brush-busting 45-minute rush downstream and across Brown's Bridge. Later we learned that it had unfolded much as we suspected. Sam's cousin had somehow landed a nice brown. Sam pulled his raft into the eddy, and everyone climbed out to photograph the fish. Sam handed the painter rope to his cousin's son-in-law, who in reverie and ignorance dropped the rope. A big mistake. In addition to being the fish and game warden captain in Bozeman, Sam was in charge of water safety. We're pretty sure that no one in Fish, Wildlife, and Parks ever mocked him about his aquatic misadventure. Coy, one of the wardens, stopped into our camp late Saturday night to report the sighting of a loose raft to his boss, again, the water safety guy, but that was probably just work-related. As Tim Weiss put it back at the hitching post in Melrose, just another day for the river heroes.